All right, y'all, we are live. Hello, good night to you. As my very good friend Heidi would say, who I have not seen in person in many years. Currently, as far as I know, she is in Trinidad and Tobago. I bring you greetings from South Carolina using a Trinidadian greeting. Hello, good night. I hope you guys have been well. Today, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have been able to conserve a little piece of energy enough to get a little fire started within after a long day. And I am also very grateful that tonight is episode 7 of the Creative Scholar podcast. For those of you who have been with me every episode, most of you have been in the playback community, because obviously it's a little bit later on a Tuesday evening for some of you. Whether you watch live every week, whether you comment or not, some of you give feedback, and many of you watch it, like I said, on the playback, and either you've written in the comments or you have let me know that you've been around, you've asked questions, and expressed interest. You know who you're talking to if you know who I'm talking to, rather, if you're one of those people. And I want to start off by saying thank you. If you are joining for the first time tonight, welcome to the TCS Pod. I am Dr. Dannetta, and I am the host of the Creative Scholar Podcast, where we meet weekly at the intersection of theology, psychology, and creativity. And we have a good time for about an hour or so. Sometimes we run a little longer than an hour, and every now and then we run a little shorter than an hour. But tonight, we have some fun things to talk about tonight. Tonight will be a little bit of a get to know me a little bit better, just by way of me sharing a couple of things. And then we're going to talk about a couple of topics tonight that have resonated with me over the years, and then more recently, some things have come up for me that I've either had conversations about, done some studying with, some reading, seen something in the media. Usually I'll point out to you guys if that is the case. But tonight, for the most part, my plan is to be very demure, very mindful. If you know, you know. I plan to share some things that I hope encourage you, entertain you, and maybe even inform you a little bit, or get some ideas going, jog your memory in some way. All right, and so we're going to jump right in tonight. Somewhere in that long title that I wrote for YouTube, you see where we be. So I want to tell you guys about something that I'm doing kind of for the first time, kind of again, and that is I have started a new Substack site. For those of you who are familiar with Substack, you already know it is a space for writers. And it, for some people, may function like a blog. For others, it may function like a hub for all of the things that a person may do and want to share. But for the most part, it centers around writing. A couple of years ago, I had started writing more content, just long form content for my business. If I'm not mistaken, it was during the time where my business was still called Anchored Hope Company. I'm not sure. I think it was a couple years back when the company was still Anchored Hope Company, still a company. Now the name is Excel at Being Yourself. Still a coaching and counseling business. And so I'm getting back into sharing my writing again, I'll say it like that, through my Substack. And, for those of you who consume a good bit of social media, but especially for those of you who are creators, you kind of get that each platform functions best a particular way. For example, Instagram, its original, I guess, intent was to display pictures, and it has gone on to have different styles of video. People sometimes post pictures, but they're just words. And you kind of figure out how Instagram will work, but for the most part, it's for people who want to see something, know something, learn something, be entertained by something very quickly. And it is more designed for the short attention span that most Americans and maybe other people around the world have developed. You guys know, for the most part, Facebook, people use it in different ways. Some people have been able to use Facebook in a very profitable way. But for a lot of us, Facebook is more of a place where we might be able to connect with family, maybe classmates, or maybe people we've met along the way. Some people are a little bit more, I guess, tailored with their Facebook. I have tried that. I have multiple, I think, 2 Facebook profiles, one of which I probably have only logged in once or twice in the past years, literally because my business pages are connected to that page. But yeah, Facebook is often a place to connect with people who you may be more familiar with. A lot of us have held on to our Facebook just because there are people on there that we know in real life that maybe we don't get to talk to or see often enough, and we don't want to lose track. And sometimes it's the only way to really, sometimes, someone may come to your mind from college and you'll be like, oh, wait, I went to school with so-and-so, I wonder how they're doing. And you're connected to them on Facebook and maybe really no place else. Then, for Twitter, for a very long time, I don't even remember the number of characters, but it wasn't a lot. You couldn't write a lot on Twitter. And so there's WordPress and all of the different blogging spaces. But Substack, to me, and you can look it up, is SUBSTACK. Substack, to me, it is very, what's the word I'm looking for? There's different ways you can do it, but I'm new to Substack, although I have been a subscriber of literally less than a handful of people that I actually read regularly. So just in my wanting to create more and provide a space where I can write or I can share in long form, but it not be as, I don't know, I guess not as overproduced almost sometimes. As, like, for example, for me on Instagram, I tend to, I make reels or I post pictures, but I don't know, there's something about Instagram that is, because of what Instagram has become, it's just a lot more, you can just be transparent on Instagram, but you really kind of have to be careful with that, and you got to know why you want to be on Instagram. And for me, it's not necessarily, it's a place where I can be transparent and share maybe under a post, but there are some things that maybe I've wanted to say, and I would start writing and be like, okay, this caption is like way too long. Like, this is too long. So, all of that to say, I hope that my Substack will be a place where people who are interested in reading in long form and are interested in my authentic just experience, my thoughts. I also feel like, for me, or also I've determined that for me, Substack will be a place where I get to be a human, basically. Where I get to be a human. On other pieces of content, whether it's just my personal page or from my business, I might share things that I've learned. I may share from the perspective of a scholar or an expert in particular topics. Or I may even share, a lot of times I probably share other people's things more than I post my own on Instagram. But on Substack, there will be some times where I may share something that I've learned in my studies I may share something from the Bible. I think my very first post was a post that I also had posted on Facebook where I was examining, where the Bible says if we love God, we will keep His commandments, and something that I had been illuminated to me about focusing on the love part, and it's almost kind of a way of processing, as I recover from some of my misgivings about the Christian life when it comes to, as it's basically being legalistic, being a rule follower, which is not necessarily bad, but if it is not understood, if the Bible and God's intention for the way things are said are taken the wrong way, it can be very detrimental, even if you are doing good things or following rules. There's a way in which we miss out on knowing God when we don't focus on the love part, the part where He loves us, and then the part where we get to know Him so that our love for Him grows. So, those kinds of things might be things that I will share on my Substack, but then there will be other things where I'm literally sharing my experience. Some things will be shorter notes where I will share something that will come across more poetic than prose. Yeah, so it's going to be a space where you can get to know me a little bit better, and where I will also, just speak about the human experience. And the name of it is How We Be. And if you go to Substack and you look it up, you can subscribe. But I'm also going to put a link in the description of this live after the live is over, where you can subscribe for free to my Substack. And when I post to my Substack, it will come to your email, even if you are not someone who wants yet another social media app on your phone to scroll through. You can click the link. You can subscribe to my Substack for free. And then as time moves on, or even now, if you feel so moved, you can subscribe as a paid subscriber. There is a portion of that I actually want to go back and still look at. It's already set up, but I started it and it was very automated. I kind of went with what was already recommended on that for paid subscriptions, and I think it may have been $8, but my subscription is not going to be $8. It's probably going to be $7. But anyway, you can subscribe for absolutely free. As of right now, I won't be posting a lot of posts that are exclusive only for paid until I have some paid subscribers. When I have some paid subscribers, I will share content that only the paid subscribers can see. But for now, everything that I post is going to be free. So go ahead and sign up for free as a free subscriber, and you'll get to see these things that I won't post anywhere else. To get started, I will probably post my Substack link on Twitter. I think I posted it on Twitter today. On a note that I posted. I'll share it on all of my platforms once or twice just to get started. But then Substack will be Substack. I will post authentically out into the Substack verse and let it be caught by whoever is going to catch it. Because the purpose of that particular platform for me is for me to share my writing share my thoughts through my writing. All right, so that's the first get to know me thing that's going to be happening. And then I thought it would be neat. I don't know if my guy viewers will be interested in this, but hang on. Stay with me if you're a guy viewer. But my girl viewers, I know, I got some stuff for guys and girls, but I know that women, I believe women when it comes to favorite things. I don't know. Let me not stereotype like that. But I just feel like I think I think women are a little bit more interested in this. You know what? I really should have just went into this segment and shared what I was going to share, and then whoever is interested in that part is going to be interested in it. Whoever is not is not. But my main point was, if you're not into favorite things, hang on, because I'm not going to stay on this for too long. Alright, so I thought it would be cool as we prepare for a new season to come in to share some favorite things of mine. Some of these things will be relevant to the upcoming season of autumn, fall, which is my favorite season. And many of you, it may be the same. Please let me know in the comments if fall is your favorite season. I'm going to be checking the chat to see who is with me on that. You can also let me know if you feel a way about the summer going away. Um, you are respected and you are seen in this space. I just feel a different way. I'm excited about fall. Fall starts this year on September 22nd, which is on a Sunday. I have already looked these things up because I need to know. I'm always so excited when fall comes in. So I figured just coming into the new season, I will share a couple of things with you guys that are not necessarily exclusive to the fall, but I'll share a couple of favorite things. I thought that would be something fun that I could do today. And y'all, these things are so almost random. They are not categorized, but here they are. Y'all, this is one of my favorite. This is something that I just randomly found that it might be my absolute favorite. It is this. It is this. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but it is this. It is called Nature Well Extra Virgin Coconut Oil Moisturizing Cream. It provides visibly softer, more hydrated skin, and it is for all skin types and tones. The reason why this stuff is like really, really good. This is what I have been using for moisturizer, like for all of my skin. I've used it on my face a tiny little bit, but I don't normally use like a thicker, more potent moisturizer on my face because my skin is it's not overly oily, but it's oily enough. And I am very thankful for that in this season. But I found this at Sam's. Like, I went to Sam's for some other things, and I was over in the section where they have, like lotion, body wash, all of that kind of stuff, allergy medication, Motrin. I'm just naming things that are relevant to me that I didn't necessarily buy at Sam's that day, but y'all know which section I'm talking about. And I just saw it, and I wanted it because I'm one of those people who, if it's like, I used to be this way with hair stuff when I first went natural. And y'all know, those of you who have been following me or you've been subscribed to my YouTube for years, you already know, you remember when I had first really gotten into my natural hair. I had grown my hair out. I didn't go natural like, I didn't do a big chop. I did the clip every time I would go to get my hair done for like a year until all of my relaxed hair was gone. And at the point where I got majority of my hair was natural and there were only like a few small relaxed ends, I went crazy, so to speak, buying all of the natural hair products, all of the Shea Moisture, all of the Cantu, all of the what was it? Is it Miss Jessie's daughters? Something, Miss Jessie's. All of those products, I was just purchasing them. At this phase in the natural hair game for me, it is pretty much the same things. I buy some new things here and there, but for the most part, I use all of the same products in my hair, and I'm not all over the place. Now I'm on skin, and so this is like a random, really good skin product that I purchased recently that it's very affordable, and it just, try it. Go to your Sam's, and that's the thing about buying stuff in Sam's. You don't always know if it's still going to be there, and it's going to last forever almost, so by the time you use it up and you need more, you don't even know if they still going to have it there. But go to Sam's, find out if they have this, and try it. And for the fall, coming into the winter, see, this is why I said, guys, stay around. Because some of y'all not into skincare like that. But you should be. So I'm trying to help you out. If you go to Sam's, you can purchase some of this. Because we get ready to go into the summer. We get ready to go into the fall. And, the ash be real for some folk. So try it out. I don't want to take any of it out and put it on my hand because I don't want to get oily stuff all over my notes or all over my clothes. So this is one of my favorite things right now in this season. We'll see if once fall is over going into the new season, if I have a new empty, and I'll come back, I don't know, maybe once every season of the podcast and share some favorite things. All right. My next favorite thing, which also took me by surprise, this is a lip gloss. It's called Lifter Gloss, and it is by Maybelline. All right, I don't know if y'all can see that well. It's called Lifter Gloss, and y'all, I love this lip gloss because it is shiny. And it has a lot of moisture, but it also kind of has the type of hold that feels like a matte lip gloss. So if you are one of those girly girls and you like a good lip gloss that has a thickness to it, but it's not matte, it's shiny, and it's not stiff the way matte lip gloss is, try this one. I think, let's see, what's the name of this color? This color is 014. It's called Heat. Alright, so Lifter Gloss by Maybelline. This is a fan favorite of mine, and I've seen some different reviews of some of the other ones. This is the only color I have, but I would like to have this maybe in a red, like a more red than pinkish reddish, and then I wouldn't mind having it in like a burgundy for the fall. Yeah, so this is one of my favorite things right through here. The next thing I want to show, and I'll show y'all that another time. I told y'all last week I was hunting down teas, and I still am, because I'm trying to go split my coffee consumption in half. I normally, on a weekday or on a morning when I have to get up and out pretty early, I usually drink coffee these days. I actually am a late starter with coffee. I didn't start drinking coffee until I was in my mid-30s, when I was in seminary. I was drinking that coffee to stay up and do all of that reading and all of those papers. So I'm a very late starter to coffee. Of course, I had tasted it before. But as I need to drink coffee in the morning because it's going to give me a pick-me-up, I didn't start doing that until I was in my 30s. But here we are a few years later, and I need to cut my coffee consumption. One, because coffee obviously it is a stimulant, and stimulants do, they mess with, or what is the word I'm looking for? I'm doing this tonight. They impact the nervous system. Not necessarily always in a negative way, but because they impact the nervous system, because caffeine impacts the nervous system, or too much of it impacts the nervous system, it also impacts the gut. Now, some people have a more sensitive gut than others. And so for me, I'm learning that if I drink coffee with some kind of, if I have some limits with some kind of moderation, I'm usually good. But I do like a good hot drink first thing in the morning. And so I've been looking for teas that are herbal. And I told you guys last week I would show you the one that I have found that I really like. I don't know how well you guys can see this. This feels like my old school YouTube days. The only thing I'm not doing is holding my hand up against the back of it. But yeah, this is like my favorite tea right now. My mom drinks this tea. I remember her having this tea maybe a couple of years or so back, or maybe not that long. I don't know if she still drinks it, but I was just like, yeah, peach. Nah, I'm good. I'm good on that. But now that I'm into turmeric, I wanted to try it, and it's actually pretty good without sugar or honey or any of those things as well. Because I've also been exploring teas that I don't have to put some kind of sweetener in to enjoy it. I do use sweetener sometimes, but a lot of times, if I can find one that has a really good flavor, I will not put any sweetener, like any honey, any agave. Every now and then, I would use the syrup for my coffee. I put a little syrup in there because it's sugar free. But this is one that's good without adding a sweetener. The other one is also the same brand, and these are not, yeah, I'm showing you these things almost, you know, more so because they are just basic things you can pick up in Walmart or Target or Publix or whatever grocery store you have near you. All right, the other one I like is the I Love Lemon. But because this is has the lemon in it, which is going to be more acidic, this is not probably a tea that I would drink at night unless it's something where I've just eaten like maybe an hour or so before and I'm going to be up. So something like that, I might take this. I might drink this I Love Lemon. But I love tea, like absolutely love tea. But finding herbal teas that are just easy to pick up anywhere, that can not always be easy. Another thing that I noticed is that a lot of the teas for night, remember the other week we talked about teas that we could drink at night. I'm still waiting on y'all to give me some suggestions of those in the comments. Or you're welcome to send the suggestions to me to info@drdannetta.com if you don't want to put it in the comments. But if you put it in the comments, other people can see it and other people can enjoy and maybe find a new tea as well. But what I was going to say is, one thing that I noticed is that a lot of the nighttime teas have chamomile in them. Even the ones that don't have chamomile in the name, like say it's dandelion and something. If it has some other cute little name, but then when I look in the ingredients, they all have chamomile in them. All of the nighttime teas. So I know I'm going to have to get like a specialty tea. I'm going to probably have to order one from someone. And the only thing about doing that is if I really like it, I'm going to probably end up having to get like a subscription from someone who, or a company that will ship it to me monthly. Because a lot of times, tea, you don't buy them in that huge of a bulk. So when you're out, you want to be able to go find it. There is, I think her name is Quality. I try to, keep track of creators that I enjoy and I support that have stuff. But when it comes to anything I'm going to ingest, I'm going to look into that a little bit deeper. But I'm trying to remember. I think her name is Chanel. I don't remember her last name, and I'm not sure of the name of her channel, but I think her channel has Chanel in it. Her YouTube channel, and she sells tea. So I'm gonna go back and explore her page. I had favorited her page to go back and do that because I love to support other creators that are doing cool things. So yeah, these are my two favorite teas right now going into the fall because they are basic teas I can pick up pretty much anywhere, and I can drink them instead of coffee. And then I figured I'd show you guys one of my favorite mugs. Oh, no, I didn't show you the coffee. Then I'll show you the mug. A new coffee that I'm drinking. I ordered this coffee off of Amazon. But another way that I'm cutting back on drinking regular coffee is by trying the mushroom coffee. Let me know in the comments if you drink mushroom coffee. If you ever tried mushroom coffee, what has been your experience? I know they are much easier on your stomach lining because they are not as acidic as regular coffee. This one, the brand is called Peak Performance. Peak Performance has lion's mane, reishi, chaga. This looks like cordyceps and turkey tail mushrooms. So there's two other brands. One is called, starts with an S, Sigma, that I would like to try, that sells mushroom coffee. And then the other one is Mud, I believe. Mud has sent me coupons in my email because I probably asked them for information before, but I never actually purchased. So let me know in the comments if you drink mushroom coffee, and if mushroom coffee has given you that perk that you need in the morning, and if you have found that it is easier on your digestive system. I've had a couple of personal testimonies, for people to tell me that I actually know in person that they drink the lion's mane mushroom coffee, and that they like it. That's just all they drink now, and they don't drink regular coffee anymore. So, anywho, this is one of my favorite things going into the fall as I cut back on regular coffee. And then I'll show you guys, this is one of my favorite mugs. I purchased it thinking that it could be a part of my morning ritual. It says wake up makeup. But who on here knows that I do not wear makeup every day? And I wonder how well you guys can hear me. I've been kind of far away from the microphone tonight. I do not wear makeup every day to work. Every now and then I wear makeup to work. Really, for my day job, I will fill in my brows and put on some lip gloss. Every now and then I will put on a face. But there's just something about, for me, when I go to work with students, or maybe sometimes a lot of times I'll be taking meetings with adults. There's something about working my day job that I don't want to wear makeup. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just think I tend to categorize types of work. Because, for example, like with the podcast, there are different types of work that go into a podcast. So, there's the admin side of like making sure the subscriptions for the software, or not for the software, for the what is this? For the operating system, for streaming. The streaming system is paid for. There's the thing of updating the streaming system. There's the thing of moving things that are stored in the computer off of the computer onto the hard drive, which I have mine sitting right here so I can remember when I get off tonight to do it, so that I won't be stuck not being able to save next week. Those are some of the admin things, and then there's the production side of actually writing out what's going to be on the podcast, what I'm going to talk about, doing the research, having the resources with me that I want to use, that I want to talk about, putting the lights up. For me, the makeup in the clothes or whatever, even if I don't wear makeup, whatever my vibe is for that week, all of that to me is like a part of the production. Like, I'm the talent, but I'm a part of the production. So there's just something about sitting in front of the camera, having the lights on, or even like sitting to talk with other professionals about certain things that gives me that something that I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to wear makeup today. I want to feel more pulled together today. And then on other days, feeling pulled together for me is, a lip gloss that I like, the pair of glasses that I like. I might wear some Nikes, or I might even wear some fake Chacos from Walmart, also known as Jesus sandals. So to me, like, different things just put me in the mood, I guess, or I categorize things even with the way I look sometimes. So that's just my thoughts, how I think. All of that to say, I love this mug because it says "Wake Up Makeup," but your girl don't wake up and make up every day. I guess if you include brows and lip gloss, wake up makeup is pull yourself together for me. Pull yourself together for what it is that you have to do on this particular day, right? Yeah, it's just something about sitting and working with students or working at the computer all day that I don't want to wear a full face of makeup. And I'm a face toucher as well. Like if I'm thinking, even while I've been sitting here, I've stopped myself from doing some of the things that I do normally when I'm not sitting in front of a camera. So I'm not a makeup everyday person, but this is a part of my ritual, I guess. This is one of my favorite cups. And I also want to show this one to shout out another creative scholar who is also very she's also, I was about to say, very demure and very mindful. I'm not gonna do that to y'all tonight. Please don't click off. We've all heard enough. I'm late with hearing the very demure and very mindful girl's video, and it's hilarious. And at the same time, like I like her. I feel like I need to. I didn't follow her channel. I don't remember how I saw it finally. I'm so late, but it's hilarious. So anywho, this is by Faces by Miranda. Faces by Miranda. Miranda, her name is spelled Maranda. And I believe her page is called Faces by Miranda. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put it in the description of this after this video is over. After this episode is over. See, even showing y'all these things in the middle of the podcast is putting me back in the YouTube mind frame of just doing YouTube videos. So, this is a get to know me thing. I was doing YouTube videos, excuse me, long before I ever decided that I would put out a podcast. All right, and I have some news about the podcast as well after this segment. So, Miranda, Faces by Miranda, or it's something with her name in it, and I'm going to put it in the description. She is a makeup artist who is from the Columbia, South Carolina area, and she's also so many other things. She also works in media as well, and she's a makeup artist. She does multiple things for very large companies. So yeah, I love to support people who are doing great things, and I also love to see people doing the more than one thing and figuring out how that looks and how that works for their life, and she's one of those people. So check out her store. She has a lot of cute things. She has bags, purses. She has cups. She has I'm trying to think. She has, I'm sure, like some tools or utensils for makeup. I don't remember exactly which ones she has at this time, but I will put her website in the description. So another favorite thing for fall, and then my last favorite thing that I'll show you guys is gonna be right now. This is my favorite water bottle. I actually got this as a gift at podcast summits. I'm not sure what the people with the different levels higher of ticket received, but to have just a general ticket, I thought the gifts that they gave us in the gift bag or the conference bag were very nice. And we also got this. The brand is called Supplement. I don't know much about the brand, but I believe the brand is probably a partner of Social Proof, and that's who put on the podcast summit. So this is my favorite water bottle right now. I think the best part of it is the handle, because if you know me, you know, going out to do anything, I have all of the things with me, but I'm going to make sure I have water. So much so to where if I'm just on autopilot and maybe I'm on the phone or I'm listening to something when I'm pulling up to someplace, I might not even think about it. And I would get out the car with the water bottle, even if I'm going into someplace that has water. And I have to remind myself, like, you can leave that in the car, hun. You don't need water. They gonna have water. But anyway, yeah, this is my favorite water bottle right now. Um, it's a good size, but it's not too huge. It has the flip top, which I actually like more than the straw. And the handle, I like that the handle is easy to take off in order to wash this. And it is white, but right now it is still very crisp and clean because of how I keep it. But they may have other colors. I don't know. I don't know what the website is for this, but I'm sure I can find it and put it in the description. So those are some of my favorite like everyday things that I enjoy right through here that are like my things. I actually have a I have a few posts already for Substack queued, but one in particular you will hear me mention some of my things, my comfort things. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this favorite things segment of the podcast. Um, and then because we have been talking about the season change and going into fall in the next couple of weeks, I think this is a great place to move into one of the topics that I want to talk about tonight. All right, and that is when things begin to change in your life, in our lives, when things begin to change. All of us who have been blessed to see a couple of years and are continuing to learn and grow, we oftentimes we might dream, we may imagine being in different positions in life, being in different situations in life, whether it is family situation, whether it is a career, whether it is a place where you will live, whether it is being healthier. It could be losing weight. It could be finding a cure or a remedy for something that is happening in your body. It could be having better mental health. It could be having better relationships, or you just maybe imagine something that you've never had or something that you've never experienced. Well, we all know in order to get from where we are to those things and to those places, what has to take place? Change. And change is something that sometimes we desperately desire, and then there are other times where that same change, maybe for that same situation, we are completely terrified of how that change is going to impact, how that change is going to make us feel, how that change may impact the people around us. But we know that in order to grow and to move in the direction for the plans that God has for each of our lives, it's inevitable. Change. It's inevitable. And sometimes we get to decide and choose certain things that may confront us in certain areas of our lives. We can decide, are we going to change now, or is it going to take something else for us to change? Or, are we willing to put forth the effort? Do we have the courage? But sometimes, change happens and we don't get to think about it and then make a choice. It just happens and it's there, and then we have to deal with it. And so, either way, even when we don't decide to make the change, but the change, whatever change happens, not the change, y'all. But even though the change is a change that people have to manage, I'm not talking about the change right now. I'm saying whatever the thing is that is the form is different in your life, or something is different about your life, whether it catches you by surprise or whether it is something that you saw coming. Change impacts us in different ways. And I want to talk about some of the things that happen when things begin to change in our lives. And tonight, I want to more so focus on changes that happen when you begin to grow, when you begin to be stretched in order to be able to have the capacity for whatever it is that is coming up next in your life. Whatever it is, maybe that you prayed for, whatever it is that you have waited for, whatever it is that you have prepared for, oftentimes a huge part of that preparation is change. And we know that, just like the different seasons of the year bring changes that we have come to anticipate, even though we don't know exactly how every season is going to go. We don't get a calendar of the temperatures of the next 90 to 120 days. We don't get that, but we know, generally speaking, what some of the season changes will bring and how those things will impact us. And because of that, we're able to prepare. And even for those of us who may or may not like one season or the other, we can cope with it. We can deal with it. We can deal with it, and we can even look forward to it with some level of enjoyment and anticipation, because we kind of know what's coming for the most part. And it is not always like that in life, but there are some things that we can prepare for. And before we go through just a couple of these encouraging things that I have written down, I want to share what prompted, I feel like I'm going to give it away though. I won't share what prompted me to spend time on this topic, but I will say, if you go ahead after this is over and you go to the link where you can subscribe to my Substack, you will see it pop up within the next 24 hours, because I wrote about this one today, but I will say this: there are particular changes that I personally have experienced, or have been experiencing, really gradually over time, that because I know a little bit about, I know a little bit through my studies and just through living, that certain types of changes come with certain things. We all know that. But because I have studied and experienced a little bit of this myself in past times, I felt I knew what to expect. So how can I say this where you won't know what I'm talking about, but you will know what I mean? Certain ways in which we have to adjust in order to be prepared and in place for things that are happening in our lives. We know that sometimes changes will happen within different relationships, and those changes are not always looked at as negative. Sometimes it's just, oh, we expected that. For example, if you are a parent and you have a child that is a junior in high school, and you already know that child wants to go to college, and wants to go to a college that is at least 6 to 8 hours away from you. And you already know that this child is most likely going to do the work and have the grades, and will more than likely be accepted into the college of their choice. You know that their junior year. And so even though you have a whole nother year and a half, 2 years before this child will graduate high school and go to college, you still start to feel some things. You start to anticipate, you start to think, you start to plan. You've been planning probably all of the child's life. If you are, I don't want to say if you're a good parent. If you're a good parent now and you just started planning and it's a little later in the game, I'm not knocking you. There is grace for all of us. None of us have done everything right from throughout all of time. For those of you who are parents, there is grace for you. So don't feel no type of way about me saying if you're a parent, you've probably been planning all of the child's life. But most likely, you've been planning. So even though you've been planning, even though you knew the child will grow up, even though you knew if things went your way and if things, by the grace of God, that child was going to go off one day and go to school, the closer you get to it, the more you feel some of that anticipation. But there's nothing like when you drop your baby off at school. Because when you drop your baby off at school, you might think, oh, I'm fine. This child is fine. I trust God. They are in the same state with their auntie or their uncle. Their best friend is next door or is their roommate. I'm not worried about this child. So you're one of those parents that you do all right. But you pull off, you think you're going to be good, and the next thing you know, you have had to pull over because you have been overtaken by the emotion of the change. It's not a bad change necessarily. It's probably a good change. Things are happening in the way that they happen. But sometimes you don't always know how it's going to affect you or how it's going to impact you emotionally. So this is just something that happens in life. But what I want to challenge us to do today when it comes to how we are processing the changes that we experience in life, I want to challenge us to do a couple of things. The first thing I want to challenge us to do is around our feelings. And what I want us to be committed to doing is actually exploring those feelings instead of just trying to numb them or feel better, especially if they are harder feelings to feel. But when it comes to feelings like joy, excitement, relief, I want to challenge us to actually explore those feelings, to sit with those feelings, to actually communicate those feelings, even if we only communicate those feelings to God. I encourage you to write them down, to make a journal of some sort. Oftentimes when people get to this position in life where they're going through changes and they want to process, here's where a lot of times a creative person or someone who has a knack for different things may want to record these thoughts and record these feelings in a vlog or a blog. You will notice when people start going on different journeys, they might start sharing them through different forms of media. You don't necessarily have to do that unless that's something you want to do. If that would be helpful to you, go for it. But it doesn't have to be anything super complicated. I recommend keeping a journal. You can keep a written journal, or there's even now a journal app on the iPhone. Androiders, you probably have something similar. It's probably not as good as the one that is on the iPhone, but you probably have a journal app that you can use. I encourage you to explore those feelings by writing them down and allowing yourself to sit in those feelings. The next thing I encourage is what I will refer to as radical acceptance. I encourage radical acceptance, especially if it is something that if you are feeling things associated with the change that you're experiencing in your life that are feelings that you don't like to feel. Like if you feel if you for example sadness or even loneliness or even fear, we can feel those feelings. And sometimes before it can even register to us that that's what we're feeling, we will do something to numb it. Whether that is eating, or whether that is social media, whether that is talking on the phone with people, or whether that is some people, numb out by working out, lifting weights. None of those are bad things, but if they are being done to always circumvent feeling what you feel, I encourage you to work through that with radical acceptance, accepting the situation, accepting the change, and being able to accept the change will help you to be more proactive about what you need to do about it. Your average person is going to be able to cope with the feelings that happen when things are changing in our lives, whether they are looked at as negative or positive changes. But at the same time, the average person may use some type of coping mechanisms in a way that is what we call in the counseling world maladaptive. It might feel like it's helping, but it's actually exacerbating the situation whereby the things that you're doing are actually going to have a negative effect on you and sometimes other people. We know sometimes people numb through drugs. Sometimes people numb through alcohol. Sometimes people numb through relationships in different ways. And that is not always a healthy way of coping with change because, when change first happens, we experience what can be considered a crisis. We feel knocked off of our equilibrium. And sometimes the things that we will do or things that we will run to during a crisis, once we begin to stabilize, those things will no longer be appropriate. But by at that point, damage may have been done to our lives and to our relationships that is unnecessary simply because we found it hard to sit in the pain that we might feel or to sit in the discomfort. Sometimes we're not even able to identify the discomfort. Sometimes we're not even able to say, oh, this is, I feel lonely, or, oh, I'm sad about this, I'm upset about this, I'm disappointed by this, I'm triggered by this. Sometimes we don't allow ourselves to even recognize and acknowledge things long enough to find out what should we do about it, what would be the healthy way to move forward. Oftentimes that will take us on a trail of actually creating a problem that did not exist prior to the feelings that we felt due to the things that are changing in our lives. So I encourage all of us as we experience growth, as we're learning, as we're growing, as God is opening doors for us, as He's opening the eyes of our understanding, even in the Word of God. I know for myself, it's very interesting how when I am in like a rapid kind of growth spurt spiritually, going into that, being in that place with God, I'm usually able to I set my face like flint in a way and be like, okay, I already know. I already know where God is taking me is going to call for some things that I may or may not be, that I may not, some changes that I might not necessarily want to see happen. And sometimes that can be changes in anything, about my life, and I can kind of foresee like, okay, this is gonna call for a little bit of change. All right, so here we go. Usually going in, I'm very able to just make up my mind. Okay, now at the time, this is what is gonna happen. But what sometimes I'm not prepared for is how I'm actually going to feel when when these radical when these adjustments take place that cause a noticeable change in my life. Again, like I said, it can be good, it can be positive, negative, pleasant, joyful, prospering, things are going well. I can still sometimes not be, sometimes I would say the feelings that I may feel about certain changes will catch me by surprise. because I'm in such a like, okay, well, this is what it is. This is how it's gonna go. This is what I have to do. This is what might happen, kind of thing. Kind of like making a decision, even though it's gonna be difficult. I know it might be difficult, but when I get to a space where, okay, all right, things are what they are. When things start to equalize and settle for me, and I give myself a chance to actually feel my feelings, I'm a little bit caught off guard sometimes by how I feel. And so I've been encouraged to not almost overthink or over intellectualize the feelings that I feel during change. And I mentioned my counselor. It seems like I'm just going to be mentioning my counselor during these episodes, and that's okay. But counselors, we have a way of helping people to distinguish between their thoughts and their feelings, or giving them a chance to get out of their heads and into their hearts. But oftentimes, because we do that professionally, we can be the hardest people sometimes. I think most counselors will probably agree with me. Being a counselor is not for the faint, but at the same time, um, the challenge that comes with being a counselors for sure will make a person a stronger counselor for the general public and the general population. But talking with my counselor, we were talking through a particular challenge, like coming up with a game plan. Like this is the plan. This is what you agreed to. This is what we're gonna do, right? That kind of thing. And I was telling her how, excuse me, certain things that she might recommend to me, the things that give definition or put things in a box or put things in a like, oh, this is this way because of this. Those are the things that those are the things that resonate with me first or most. Like if she gives me 5 things and says like, pick these 3 things and I want you to do these 3 things. And so when we meet again, I'm going to ask you thus and such. If whichever one of those 3 things is more based upon my thinking than my feeling, I'm going to pick the thinking thing. Like, I'm definitely going to say like, oh yeah, because that is going to allow me to define this, and this, and then I can just make a decision on this is how she's been challenging me more lately to have that, thinking, categorizing thing. But at the same time, she's been challenging me to pick something that is more not reliant on me having an understanding per se of what is happening, but more so me being able to connect with and identify what am I feeling. And then we can go about finding all of the definitions and all of the why and all of that the next time. But let's think about how were you feeling in this particular moment, or what happens when thus and such is taking place. How do you feel? I need you to be able to tell me that. And so I'm challenging you all. Think about some things that maybe some changes that have happened in your life in recent months, weeks, or maybe even recent years. Think about some things that have changed, whether you feel in your experience they have changed for the good or for the bad. And I want you to take some time to process how those things made you feel, right? And for those of us who are believers in Christ, for those of us who have made a commitment to live our lives God's way, according to the Bible, specifically you is who I'm talking to right now, and of course I'm one of you, so I'm talking to me as well. How we feel about certain things that happen, when we're able to adjust how we feel about certain things, we will usually be able to also address how those feelings made us think about God. How the feelings that we have in certain situations make us think about, um, God's will and God's way, His plan, why He does things. And oftentimes, we'll be able to, look back and say that, okay, yeah, I felt excited and relieved about this. And when I felt this excitement and this relief, it made me think, okay, God does see me. He does care about me. He does answer my prayers. You might also be able to pinpoint some times where maybe you felt, disappointed or let down or afraid or a failure, or you thought certain things about yourself and you felt a certain way. You didn't just feel a way about the situation. Think about how you felt and how you were thinking about God. And that gives you a chance to go back to God with some things. Because when we don't sit with those feelings and those thoughts, what we'll realize is that sometimes years can go by and we are subconsciously almost even building a case either for or against the love of God in our lives. And so that's just another one of the reasons why it's important to try to stay present with how you feel when things are changing and shifting in life. And the desired outcome is that we are growing closer to God. We are becoming, more whole, not only in just our walk with God, but we're becoming more connected with ourselves. And even if we can look back and say, I made the right choice in this situation, I don't have any regrets about the choices that I made, you want to still be able to stay connected with yourself. Because something that I think happens very often with people of faith, and I'm still on people of faith right now, is we almost become disconnected from our true human experience, because and we feel like we're doing the right thing because we're having faith and we're trusting God. We're walking by faith and not by sight. We're not living our lives out of our feelings. We're walking in the spirit and not in the flesh. We're not denying the power of God. So all of that can be true, and we can still be present with what we are experiencing. We can still be present with this is how I felt in this situation, or this is how this particular scenario makes me feel, or because then we can identify what are the gaps, where are the holes, where are places that only God can fill. Because the reality is, even if we never sit with those things and we aren't really present and able to articulate or acknowledge those places where there are holes or gaps for us, they're still being filled with something. So, that's going back to what I was saying earlier. We're still feeling it, those feelings that we can't sit with, that we deny or that we numb. It's still being addressed. It just might not be being addressed in the appropriate way. Sometimes unknowingly, very subtly, and slowly but surely, those gaps in what we know about God from His Word and how we perceive our life experiences, sometimes those gaps are being filled with doubt. Sometimes those gaps are being filled with erroneous thoughts about God. And us trying our best to stay on track of, I won't question God. I would never think this or think that. In effort to stay on track with that, we actually fall off track in a quiet way. And I don't want to go for too long tonight, so I could actually talk about that a whole lot more. But I just say be encouraged as the seasons of life come and go, as you experience changes, as you experience growth. Those of us who are like, man, I'm growing, but at the same time, growth has caused for me to be stripped in some ways of some things. Growth has caused changes in my relationships. Growth has caused my eyes to be open in different ways. And when my eyes are open in different ways, well, there's a lot of change that has to happen, that is happening within me, but there is a lot of change that has to happen in the way I function, in the way I operate, the choices that I make. When we're growing, we have to acknowledge areas where we are undisciplined. No longer are just the ways where we are disciplined being highlighted. And the thing about when you know that you're in a growing place, you don't, when you're in a growing, we go through seasons. We're not always in a place where we're experiencing rapid growth. But when we are in a space of experiencing rapid growth, we do not, we're in a place where we're challenged to not see the discipline of the Lord, or just God's chastening or his correction. We don't see it as punishment. It might be hard, but it might be more of like we actually recognize, we start to see like what God is doing. And so it gives us what we need to endure. It gives us what we need to continue to walk out whatever it is, whatever journey he has us on in a particular season. And to go through those kinds of growing spaces and come out them the other side, healthier, more whole in a holistic sense, being able to sit with and acknowledge the things that we are feeling and the things that we are thinking is 100% going to affect our perspective. And for those of us who are used to more focusing on changing our behaviors, being able to really sit with the way we feel, it is gonna affect our behaviors. It is gonna show up in the way we present. That is just a natural byproduct of changing, of thinking about our thinking about the things that we're thinking, and working on changing those thoughts, right? In the counseling world, that sounds somewhat similar to CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. The way we think, it impacts the way we operate, because the way we think impacts the way we feel. The way we feel impacts oftentimes the way we operate. Especially, it's a circle. It's all connected, because the way I think impacts the way I feel. But if I know that, I can start changing the way I think, because that is going to impact the way I feel, which ultimately is going to impact my behavior. So, just to wrap this section up, if you are in a growing place and things are changing around you, you may be excited because the changes are taking place. You might be excited because you are finally making progress in certain areas, but you are also experiencing different thoughts and feelings if you really take the time to think about it. One of those feelings is grief, because even though you welcome change, and maybe you have wanted change for a long time, you're losing things. Even if that is the way you used to think, the way you used to operate, some of the habits. Even though you may maintain some relationships, those relationships are changing, and sometimes it is sad. I've learned about myself. And you might tell me in the comments if you feel similar, that even though I might not say anything, because I just feel like it's probably easier for everybody if I just deal with this, I take friendships and even just acquaintances, or not, I won't even say acquaintances, friendships, and maybe especially like in the Christian faith, people that I consider brothers and sisters in Christ, whether I've met people in a church or at a concert, at a conference. Once like we have a thing, like we're friends, or we're real cool, I actually take things pretty hard. I think and I feel pretty deeply when things are separated, or when where just things just naturally drift. Um, and when I say I take it hard, I don't mean like I'm devastated. I mean I still care for the other party's success and their well-being as much as I do for the people that I'm still in close proximity to. And what I've learned is that I experience grief in ways that I did not know before. I didn't realize that, oh, that's actually grief. That's actually you are grieving the past, or you're grieving what is going away. And what I'm learning is that that is not a bad thing. Um, I think we almost should question sometimes, even though personalities are different. I am a more highly sensitive person, so I'm probably just gonna experience that, and people like me are gonna experience that kind of scenario different than people who are not the same as I am. But some people, it's just like, oh, it's cool or well. But for me, it is not that way. And you would think that it isn't. You would think that it's not a big deal to me, because I've also found that I am someone who, when I am going through like some kind of a transformation or some kind of change or something that's happening within me, I tend to distance. Not intentionally, it's not like I don't pick people and say I'm going to distance myself, but I feel like in a lot of ways internally I know what spaces are safe for me, what conversations are safe for me, what environments are safe for me when I'm in a particular space in life. But all the while, especially if it is a situation where I will like no longer be close with someone, even if it is my choice, I still experience grief. Um, and I'm actually thankful for that in this day and time. I'm thankful for that, because to me it lets me know that I don't take for granted, even if some people might think that I do, because I don't try to cling in situations that I know, like, just let this be what it is. Um, it shows me that I am thankful and that I do not take lightly when people have held a place in my life that is positive at any phase. So, and I guess a short way of saying that is I'm a pretty loyal person. Whereas even if I'm not very close with someone anymore, you're not gonna hear me, slandering them or tearing them down. If anything, I'm going to intercede for them if they come to my mind. And I'm going to be happy if they have great news. I'm going to be just excited as they are. Well, maybe not as excited as they are, but I'm a match that I'm a match the energy with excitement because I'm going to be happy for them as well. But I'm also, I think, someone who might recognize more quickly than others when it is time to allow certain things to be what they are. And it's not even always with just like my individual like friendships or acquaintances or brothers and sisters in the faith. So it could be with an organization. It could be with a fitness group, for all I care. It could be with just people that I value, experiences that I value. And I'm thankful in this time that I'm like that, because one thing that I recognize is that sometimes, do you ever know a person who they every place they leave, or every, I guess, maybe change that occurs to them, whether it's a job that they left, or whether it, they might have switched churches, or um, they're in a different professional group or whatever, you ever know a person that every single place they leave is just terrible? Like every place they go to and they're separated from, just because that's just how life is. You're not going to always go and stay everywhere with every person with everything, right? Some people, maybe more than others, will always be with who they were with as far as friendship and as far as like a church or location. But you ever notice, you ever know somebody who, it don't matter who it was. It doesn't matter what organization or what church or how amazing it was to everyone else. It is just always terrible. There's nothing good. Everybody just bad. Like everybody just, basically every place they leave, they have to throw in the trash. They can't just leave something and you know, leave it intact and let God continue to grow it. They have to trash everywhere they leave, is basically what I'm saying. Now, I'm not saying lie when you leave places. If you need to warn somebody, that's between you and God. Say what you need to say if you know things need to change in that particular space. But I feel like a lot of times, or I think that a lot of times when people have to trash every place they leave, that is their way of coping with the grief of the loss. They're not able to sit with, the actual experience that they had and how there was some good in it. And how there were some good people in the situation. There were some great times, with those people. They're not able to move on. It's almost like their way of making it clean cut is to trash whoever and whatever they're leaving. Because doing that means you also don't get to sit with the ways in which you could improve, or the ways in which you might do things different in your next situation, or the ways in which you are thankful for what God has done, or how God has used people in your life. The ways in which you could say, you know what, in retrospect, I could have handled that differently, or there are certain things that I could have done differently, or you know what, I should talk to so and so about thus and such. You don't have to do that when you trash everything and everybody when you leave a place. So, again, I know we have all had different experiences in life, and I'm sure there are some people who every church they went to, every friend they had, every person they dated was just complete trash. It's possible. But more than likely, a person who has to trash everything and everybody when it is time for, when their season with that group of people is up, has some issues with not wanting to deal with grief, right? So anyway, I'll continue on. We're going to close out with our last topic in a second, but just to put a nice bow on that section, which was our main topic for tonight, when things begin to change. Just like we're preparing for the next season that's coming up in the next couple of weeks, I know that many of you are going through great awakenings spiritually. Many of you are changing. You're growing. You're going up higher in your walk with God. You're being entrusted with different things, with different people, with different scenarios. You're being entrusted with these situations that God has equipped you for. But with that, you may also be losing some things. And so I just encourage you to sit with those feelings, to acknowledge them, to give those feelings to God in an honest way, and to allow God to give you the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding and the peace and the power that you need to navigate your changing seasons well, so that you come out the other side better, and prayerfully that you do no harm in the process as well. All right. If you feel like you have navigated season changes the wrong way, there is grace for you. There is a place of repentance for you. And in some situations, there's a place for reconciliation in relationships. But sometimes we have to know that reconciliation is not always necessary, and is not always appropriate, is not always expedient, is not always best. And so my encouragement for you tonight is to tap in, sit with yourself in prayer, sit with yourself in journaling, in quiet, and deal with, acknowledge, and manage what you are feeling during these changing seasons. All right, so as we prepare to wrap up tonight, very briefly, I want to cover this particular thought. A couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 episodes ago, I talked about creatives and despair. And we used the example of David in the Bible, in the Psalms, of how David was a warrior, he was a king. But before any and all of that, he was a shepherd, and he was a creative. David was a writer. He wrote poetry, and he wrote He wrote poetry, and he wrote prose. He expressed himself without restraint. He was honest with God about the way he felt. And he was able to feel what he felt, and then turn around and use that same mind, those same feelings, and that same pen to encourage himself in the Lord. And thankfully for us, we have the writings of David in the Psalm to find encouragement ourselves when we are experiencing despair. But just to connect with that tonight as we close, I want to acknowledge how many creatives or many people who are leaders, and please do not feel excluded when I say creatives, because I know a lot of y'all, when you hear that term, you don't think of yourself. You don't think you are a creative. But I think I should also say creative leaders. I believe that I speak to not just creatives that are entrepreneurs. I speak to leaders. Whether you're someone, you might not sing a note, you might not be a writer, you might not be a content creator, you might not any of that. But many of you, your art is speaking. Your art is speech. You could be a preacher. You could be a pastor. You could be a motivational speaker. You could be a counselor. You still fall under, in career development terms, you fall under the arts and communication cluster of vocation. So I'm speaking to you too. If you're someone who puts words together to communicate with people about God, or to communicate with people about anything in a particular profession or mental health, I'm definitely speaking to you too. So these last couple words, I want to encourage you from the Bible, but not with a specific passage tonight. But maybe I will link one in the description. So I was reminded a couple of weeks ago about how when I was in college, one of the choir directors, who is a brother for life and a friend, Samuel Lamont Hinton, how when we would get in choir rehearsal, I think I joined the choir in my sophomore year, he would have these rants about the Levitical priesthood in the Bible. And he would talk about, how the Levites were supposed to operate with excellence. And, he was speaking from, the Bible about the Levitical priesthood in the Old Testament. And it's just something else to me today, how when I was reading through the Old Testament and the Levites stood out to me, the first thing I heard in my mind is Lamont in choir rehearsal talking about the Levitical priesthood. And if you do a little bit of research about the Levitical priesthood, Um, they were warriors, and they had a very important place with in the house of God. They had a very important place when it came to God's chosen people, and they were very immaculately trained, and they walked through a lot of hardship, and a lot of the things that they experienced prepared them to be the leaders of the army of God's people. The Levitical priesthood is known for being musical. Um, the Levitical priesthood is known in a lot of ways for their service to God's people. There were people who fiercely defended the name of God. They were a group of soldiers they were a group of priests, but they were very much warriors for God's people and for the name of God. And so, oftentimes, just relating that to those of us who are creative in today's day and time, who we are highly used by God, in the church, but also to speak the name of God, to do God's work, to bring encouragement, to bring admonishment, to bring God's word, to remind people of who God is and how we are to walk in this earth as His children. Oftentimes, the creative is immaculately trained, whether that training is formal or whether that training is by way of a tough life or by way of walking through insurmountable challenges, things that they would not have asked for. And so I know from my own experience and from my research and just from having so many people in my life over the years that are creatives, that oftentimes our training ground, even though it is serving to prepare us, it can be discouraging. It can be very discouraging, and we find ourselves in different seasons of life experiencing despair. But I want us to take a cue tonight as we wrap up from David in the Bible. When we read through some of his, some people might say like his tantrums, some of the things that David said to God in the Psalm, but then we see how eventually he finds peace when he lets go, when he finds his hope in God. I want to encourage us tonight to take our cue from King David, who was also a creative, who was greatly used by God. Far beyond his time as a shepherd, during his time as a shepherd, he was being prepared for times that were far beyond that time. So I want to encourage you tonight, if you are a creative, if you are a communicator, if you are a leader, if you are an organizer, if you are anybody who is willing to put your gifts, your talent, your resources, your knowledge to work for God and for good. I just want to encourage you to know that you are not alone, in that the season that you are in now will not always last. It will not always last. It might be harder than you ever thought it would be, and your journey might be longer than you ever thought it would be. As we could see of David, as we could see of Joseph, as we could see of Moses and Sarah and Abraham and Sarah, as we could see of Paul, as we could see of Peter, as we could see of any of the biblical characters. The journey might be long and hard, but it is absolutely worth it. It's absolutely going to be worth it. My prayer tonight is not just from the biblical characters that we read about, but if we just think about the people that we know, even if it is someone that is close to you by way of family. It could be someone who in your lineage that you never met. You just heard about them. I encourage you tonight to be encouraged by even the journey of others, to see that no matter how difficult and how hard the road, the challenging place might last longer than you thought, but it's not going to always last. But by the grace of God, you will last. You will withstand whatever the test, whatever the storm is that you are walking through now, and you will come out the other side. And when you come out the other side to a place of breakthrough and a place of victory where you can understand and see the hand of the Lord in your life, you will have been even better prepared for whatever the next thing is. So that's the thing that sometimes is hard to accept about life. You know, that saying that when it comes to a storm or a test, you're in one of three places. You're either going into one, you're either right dead smack in the middle of one, or you're going out of one. All right, so it's usually it's one of the three, and such is life. Some people, may feel like, oh, the things that they have gone through are much harder than somebody else, and then there are others who might feel like, oh, I don't feel like I've gone through much of anything. But if you really think about it, you'll really be able to recognize those places that, almost just like with childbirth, as it is spoken of in the Bible. I've not had this experience yet, but I've heard so many of my fellow women, human beings, say how difficult and how painful their labor was, but how much joy they have from their children, and how they continue to have kids, or they have continued to have children, or they've had more than one child, or even if for a person who only has one child, you endure the labor and then you raise the child, and you walk through the challenges that come with raising a child. The purpose and plans of God are very, very similar for us. When we walk through the pain of certain seasons of life, and we're able to walk into the next season where that particular situation may be resolved. We may have received that answer from God. We may have received that breakthrough, or that miracle, or that answer that allows us to move on. We are still being prepared, or we've still been prepared, even if that preparation is to be an encouragement to someone else that's getting ready to walk through what we walk through. Be encouraged, especially for those creatives out there, just like the Levites, the Levitical priesthood. They were immaculately prepared because their work was so important, and because they went ahead of many others. And those of us who are learning our lessons and walking in new spaces in this season of life, never forget, remember the grace of God, so that when we have the opportunity to encourage or support or be honest and tell the truth to someone else about what they are walking through, just remember the grace of God when you're handling other people. Remember the growth that you've experienced. Remember that you were not always where you are now. Right? So just like you've grown to be able to stand tall and walk strong in the place where you're in now, whatever that difficult thing is that you're walking through now, know that you can find some encouragement and some solace in God, and that nothing is wasted. All right, so I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to close there. With just a couple of just reminders when it comes to being encouraged in God. And I'm just going to say these. You can take them from there. When you're at your place where you're feeling the most discouraged and the most like you want to give up, that's where I'm encouraging you to lean into God even more. Lean into God through honesty, through prayer. I don't care if that prayer is sitting in your car, I don't care if it's laying across the floor in your living room. I don't care if it is, in the midnight hour and no one is there, or even if people are there, but people don't know what you're going through. Lean into God. Discipline yourself to read the Word of God, because it's such a fight to get to it, because it is really where our life comes from. Discipline yourself to read the Word of God. You will find comfort in the Word of God. If you are someone who has surrendered your life to Him, you're going to find comfort in the Word of God. All right. My encouragement is, if you are someone who has not given your life to God, to surrender to God, and even if you are, for us to always be reminded that we can surrender to God again daily. All right. If we make a practice of surrendering everything about our lives to God daily, it's going to help us, because we so easily pick our burdens back up and try to figure them out, because that is what we do as humans. We are trying to do our work. We're trying to do our, what is the term? We're trying to do the works part that goes with our faith. But there is a huge part of walking with God when we are able to surrender and know that only God can do. Only God can do. I encourage you to embrace community. And with that, I want to encourage you, when it comes to embracing community, as I'm encouraging myself more these days, to find ways to be of service, to find ways to lend what it is that you do have to the service of God, in service to others. So I will close there. A song that I'm going to recommend, that I'm going to put in the comments, that I'm going to put in the description, is a link to Zacardi Cortez. I believe the name of it is "Do It For Me." I be so late, because I'm just so late. My music, what I listen to, is just kind of all over the place. But when it comes to worship music, a lot of times I will listen to my same old stuff that I've loved for years, because I know that it gets me there. It gets my mind, in a higher place, focus on God, that I miss out on songs. Y'all know how I got on this Zacardi Cortez song? Probably Instagram. I feel like it was Instagram. Somebody was using this song like in the background. Y'all know how we do when we make reels on Instagram, because I love doing that. I'm sure I'm going to use this Zacardi Cortez song soon, but I'm so late. And the reason how I know I'm late is because I was listening to it on Apple Music, but when I was starting to get ready tonight and hook all my little things up, I switched over to YouTube, and I saw that it had 33 million plays. And I don't know how many people it took to get those plays, but probably not that many, because I'm sure it is one that people put on repeat, because that is exactly what I have been doing since I have become hip to this song. So be encouraged in the Lord as you walk through your seasons of change, your seasons of growth, and as you prepare yourself for the more, whatever that means for your life, that God has in store for you. All right. Thanks so much for watching and for hanging in with me on tonight. We went a little long tonight, but I believe this episode is really going to be a blessing to someone, as it has already been for me. And I look forward to meeting you guys back again next week. I'm going to save a couple of announcements for next week, but one of them that I will give you is once this season is complete, and I'll let you guys know next week exactly how many episodes will be in season 1. Once this season is complete, I am going to be also sharing the audio from the episodes, so you'll be able to listen to the audio of the podcast and share the audio for people that you know that listen to podcasts. Right now, I know that it will be on Apple Podcasts, and I'm working right now on including the podcast on Substack. I still have to read through the logistics of that, but I know that Substack is also a platform where you can share podcasts. So be looking out for the audio of the podcast to start popping up. So basically, what I will do is once the season is complete, I'm deciding whether I'm just gonna release the whole season on audio only at one time, or whether I will release maybe 2 episodes a week while the podcast is on sabbatical from completing the season and loading up to start sharing season 2. All right, so I just wanted to drop that announcement on you. I'll close the third closing for sure now. Thank you again so much for joining me here for the Creative Scholar podcast. And I just want to remind us that all that we are doing, all that we are walking through with intention, is worth it, because doing our inner work is not just a good idea, it's the right thing to do. See you next week. Take care.